It's time to ratchet up the action that we need to have at the country level.
The United Nations Environment Programme was established with one goal in mind: to unite the world in saving our planet.
It is clear that the environmental crisis which is confronting the world will profoundly alter the future destiny of our planet.
For 5 decades, UNEP has used science and its mandate to bring the world together to help nations find solutions to grave environmental threats.
What is this pollution that we have heard so much about?
The Mediterranean is sick. It's being poisoned slowly but steadily for those who need it most.
The 1970s found a world grappling with an unprecedented crisis of pollution. Could the seemingly irreparable damage be undone? UNEP inspired the world to take action, preventing oil spills and toxic discharge by ships, uniting 143 coastal states to limit ocean pollution and save marine life, reducing air pollution and ending the scourge of acid rain. But soon, the world would face its biggest environmental challenge yet.
The destruction of the ozone layer on a global scale is no longer just a theory. The hole over the Antarctica is no longer an isolated seasonal phenomenon.
If the breach continued to grow, the planet would suffer lethal levels of ultraviolet radiation, harming human health, biodiversity, and climate. In 1987, UNEP facilitated the Montreal Protocol. Over 30 countries agreed to phase out the production of almost 100 ozone-depleting substances. The protocol remains one of the greatest achievements of multilateralism.
All nations gathered here to be proud of what we had achieved.
This success set the tone for a series of powerful accords, limiting the movement of toxic waste across borders, protecting the Earth from dangerous, long-lasting chemicals, and restricting the international trade in mercury. Most recently, in 2021, UNEP finished a 2-decade-long campaign to rid the world of highly toxic leaded petrol, saving an estimated 1 million lives each year. As the world grappled with pollution and waste, another crisis was brewing.
I have dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles and rainforests full of birds and butterflies. But now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see.
Poaching and habitat loss were pushing some of the world's most iconic animals to the brink of extinction. Driven by science, UNEP supported a series of international treaties, limiting and in some cases banning the trade of endangered species, safeguarding migratory animals, expanding protected areas, and increasing financing for biodiversity protection. The seminal Earth Summit in Brazil introduced the idea of sustainable development.
This is an historical moment for the mobilization of all peoples of the world.
Over the last 5 decades, UNEP has helped more than 100 countries enshrine the right to a healthy environment in their constitutions and produced scientific studies to guide member states in their decision-making. In 2012, a new international body was established to provide scientific data on biodiversity in a joint effort from UNEP and other UN organizations. In 2019, it found that 1 million species face the threat of extinction, underscoring the urgency to act.
Every action we take alters the earth that future generations will inherit.
The world is starting to recognize the effects of planetary warming, but UNEP began sounding the alarm 3 decades ago. As early as 1988, UNEP and the World Meteorological Organization launched the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. For over 30 years, IPCC science has helped member states counter climate change, earning the body a Nobel Prize for its work. UNEP-backed studies have informed some of the planet's most crucial climate accords. These include a 1992 agreement that set a template for curbing greenhouse gas emissions, followed by the Kyoto Protocol and the landmark 2015 Paris Agreement.
I'm proud to announce that 175 parties have signed the Paris Agreement.
UNEP has also mobilized 450 banks, insurers and investors to help create a more sustainable world.
We don't want fossil fuels anymore.
A lot has happened in the last 50 years, but it's the next 10 that will be pivotal for life on this planet.
But in fact, what you and I and other ordinary people around the world can do will not by itself save the natural world. The great decisions, the great disasters that face us can only be dealt with by governments. And that's why this organization is so important.
Over the past 50 years, we've seen when the world decides to act, the world comes together to act. Together with member states and partners, we've achieved a lot. But now is the time to truly make that lift for humanity and to do much more and much faster. And I have every reason to be hopeful. As an organization grounded in science, UNEP will do everything in its power to push for breakthroughs. Our planet and humanity depends on us. Together, we can build a greener and safer and fairer world for all.
Okay, good evening, our dear educators. I believe your day has been great and your week has been productive. Once again, congratulations to being part of the part 3 of the Teach4SDGs program. And we are glad to have you on this call again. And this evening, I'm going to be taking this training forward as how we did in the very first session of this training, which is focused on evolution and concept of sustainable development. I want to see in your comment section, just try as much as possible, like to meet you, know where you are joining from, and just say good evening to someone. And yeah, each and everyone on the call, just say good evening to someone. And once again, we want to celebrate, this month of March is a special month, which we also get to celebrate every woman around the world doing great work. And we are very proud of what you do. Happy International Women's Day once again. And, this is a very special month whereby we get to celebrate each and everyone. And we are very, very, very proud of the great work which you do in your home, at work, in your community, and yeah, it's definitely an impactful one so far. Yeah, I can see some people also celebrating them with me. Try as much as possible to celebrate every woman on this call this evening. Good evening, everyone. I can see a lot of people connecting from Nigeria, and I can also see some people connecting, Godfrey connecting from Kenya, Samali connecting from Kenya, and Marcella connecting from South Africa. It's good to have you all on this call this evening. And it's so good that we started this program with the keynote session yesterday from Professor Paul. and which he actually engaged each and every one of us on various aspects of SDGs, giving us a foundation knowledge about what the Sustainable Development Goals is and basically how the Sustainable Development Goals were formed and when it started. And I'm talking about activities of SDSN, give us a brief history of SDGs and the processes. And this afternoon, this evening per se, I'm going to be dwelling more, talking more about the SDGs and also talking about some key concepts of sustainable development. And I believe in this session, we are going to have a deep knowledge and talking more about the various aspects, the various concepts, the pillars of SDGs, the dimensions of SDGs, and the 6 transformations. And I believe these are what each and every educator needs to know and as a foundational knowledge as regards the SDGs. Yeah, and at the end of this session, I'll try as much as possible to make my session to be very brief because I would like to take questions from each and every educators, and I would like to respond to each and everyone's question whereby has to do with the series which we had today. And like I earlier said, I'm going to be speaking more about the evolution and concept of SDGs. And briefly, I will just share some key information which are very paramount. My name is Emmanuel Olaoluwa. Some call me the SDG catalyst, while some call me development catalyst. But I'm mostly concerned about we getting to accelerate the attainment of SDGs in Africa, not just in one country alone, in Africa. And believe me, when we talk about the ratings, when we talk about the progress made so far in Africa, we still have a very long way to go. We still have a very long way to go. And it's very, very important for us to get to know what exactly is our role when it comes to sustainable development. When we talk about the evolution for sustainable development, it's very important. I think Prof also dwelled on this yesterday, so I might not be discussing much about it. But some always have this misconception when they talk about the MDGs and when they also talk about SDGs. Yeah, the MDGs are quite different from the SDGs. As you can see on this slide, which already shows, we have the 8 MDGs, and the very first one is extreme poverty and eradicating extreme poverty and hunger. And the second one is achieving universal primary education. And also the third one is promoting gender equality and empowering women. However, when you look at the first SDG and the second SDG, this has to do with the two, and I mean this is already encapsulated as just a single goal under the MDGs. But then the Sustainable Development Goals were to say that we need to focus more on poverty, which is one of the primary challenges we have globally. And we also need to focus more about the issues of hunger, that's in terms of food and agriculture, which is very, very paramount. And defining sustainable development again has to do with that approach, how we live our life today, which is not going to affect tomorrow. So what I mean by that, our population keeps increasing each and every day. And the question is, does the natural resources we have in our respective countries, is it increasing as well? No, these natural resources are not increasing. So how are we going to keep up to meet the needs of the current generation and also to meet the needs of the future generation? And you know what the statistics says when it comes to population of the world, and it keeps increasing over and over again. but the natural resources is not increasing, it's reducing. So it's defining that the development that we need is a development that must meet the need of this current generation without compromising the next generation to come from meeting their own needs. So that's the simplest form of sustainable development. So when you have to define sustainable development, it's a development that meets the need of today and also consider the needs of tomorrow and the future as well. So whatever we are doing today must not compromise the future needs of the next generation. So whatever you are doing today as a teacher in your school, in your community, within your household, must get to contribute to keep our natural resources and also get to protect the Mother Earth. So I don't want to dwell too much into the aspect of environment. Yeah, these definitions are quite good when you talk about environmental sustainability. And the SDGs are this set of objectives for achieving a greener, healthier, a peaceful and inclusive planet, whereby we have a world that prosperity is well shared, societies are inclusive, and the environment is kept safe. So when you hear the words SDGs, it's a blueprint which we all are working with, which every countries, 193 countries are working with, and which is a radical plan for humanity, which guides our way of doing things each and every day. And sustainable development goals are commonly referred to as the global goals. You can call them the global goals. You can call them the 2030 agenda. So it's primarily, and some refer to it as Agenda 2030. We have the 2063 agenda, that's for African Union. That's quite different from the 2030 agenda. And I also want to say this, that when you talk about sustainable development goals, I'll try as much as possible to dwell in terms of what makes the SDGs, what makes it different, what makes it different from the MDGs. Yeah, when it comes to the formation of the SDGs, then there is this misconception between countries that the MDGs are meant for developing countries. Why the MDGs are not meant for developed countries? No. But when you look at the structure around SDGs, it's both practically applied within the developing and underdeveloped countries. So very, very, very important. And I'm still going to talk about the formation of the SDGs. And another thing which I am going to say is the formation and the implementation of the SDGs was not just achieved by one person, was not just achieved by one organization. Yeah, it was actually led by the United Nations, but 193 countries came together for a good 3 years. And I want us to note each and every of these points. For 3 years, they came together to make plans to review over and over again. And this was, this negotiation that started in 2012. And throughout that period, it was being publicized in 84 national surveys, whereby the reviews were being done over and over and over again before it was later agreed on in September 25th and 2015 and adopted by the entire country, member country that signed into these global goals. And like I was saying the other time, what makes the SDGs special? The very first thing is being universally applicable. The SDGs are like I said, It's not just focused on developed countries or developing countries. It's not leaving any country behind. You know, it's relevant regardless of their economic situation, regardless of their development, regardless of their geographic location. You know, it's universally applicable across different countries. And another thing which makes the SDGs special is the participatory approach. The participatory approach, like the formation process, the government, civil society, private sector, academia, individuals were part of this formation process. And it's very inclusive. The SDGs are inclusive, and the focus, another thing which I want to say is the SDGs are interconnected. So are very interconnected, and the achievement of one goal leads to the achievement of another goal. So when we are achieving zero hunger, you know, definitely that contributes to good health and well-being. And when we are achieving zero hunger, that also contributes to decent work and economic growth. Yeah, a hungry man, you know, there's going to be a level at which a hungry man can get to be productive at work. So, and when we get to achieve the SDGs that focus on clean water and sanitation, you know, in one way or the other, we are achieving a very good and clean and healthier environment. So these SDGs are quite connected, and the achievement of one contributes to the achievement of other. And it also has this long-term perspective, just like that's one thing that makes the MDGs similar to the SDGs. They both have a long-term perspective. The SDGs started in 2015 and it's going to end in 2030. And like I said, talking about the formation of the SDGs, we had 193 UN member states coming together to form and adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And when you talk about the SDGs are 17 sustainable goals. Sometimes it's referred to as objectives. You can refer to it as objectives, 17 sustainable goals, and probably 169 targets. I'm going to explain these targets, and I'm also going to explain the indicators. And I wish time permits me to do all of that. We have 230 plus indicators, 230 plus indicators that were being outlined for each and every goal. So for each and every goal, there is a particular target that we are to achieve under each and every goal. When you talk about SDG 1, I think, let me just see if I can lay my hands on that, because I always like to share it on my screen for each and everyone to have access to that, because I'm not sure that might be part of my slide. When you talk about SDG 1, there are targets under SDG 1, and which each and every one of us need to know, and which each and every one of us needs to ensure. These are targets that meet the needs in line to SDG 1. And there are specific indicators. There are specific indicators under SDG 1 which are being used to measure the targets for SDG 1. And this helps us to track progress. This helps us to track progress under that. And let me just stop sharing now and try and share my screen, because it's very important for us to ensure we take track of all this information. When you talk about, you can get this, it's online. I'll also share the website with you. When you go on Global Goals, it's one of the United Nations websites. When you talk about zero poverty, you see these targets under it, and for each and every goal, they have their own respective targets. And for targets, we have target 1.1, we have target 1.2, target 1.3, and target 1.1 is to eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere and which currently measure as long as people are living less than $1.25 in a day. And we also have it to target 1.7, which is to create a sound policy framework at national, regional, international level based on poor and gender-sensitive development strategies to support accelerated investments to poverty eradication action. And for all of these goals, we have a total number of 169 targets. And I want to try as much as possible to see if I can share the link. I'm also going to share the link whereby we can all have access to that. However, as part of the learning resources that are going to be shared with us, they are going to be sharing some resources that has to do with that details the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the 169 targets, and 30 indicators. And I think in one of my publications, which I'm also going to be releasing very soon, I have that will explain and in detail which you can get to learn from. I'm dropping a link on the YouTube session now, so definitely you can also get to pick it up. Okay, okay, thank you very much. They've already shared the link. Thank you very much. They've already shared the link. You can see the link. You can check your comment section for those targets. And talking about the SDGs, like I said, we have the 17 goals and we have the 169 targets. I know that for SDG 4, we are going to be more interested in that. Maybe I will just state the targets for SDG 4 briefly before we move to the next part of this discussion. Because when you talk about goal 4, achieve SDG 4, there are things which we need to look up to under that. And the very first one for SDG 4 is to ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary school education, leading to relevant and effective learning outcome. So I know that we have representation in over 20 countries on this program. And one of the rules of, one of the major indicator for this target is to ensure that the first 6 or 9 years of every student at the level of K-12 should be a free education. So, and you still, I don't want to, this is not a critic now, but we are failing short to achieve this free primary and secondary education, which is one of the major challenges which we are having. Another aspect is SDG 4.5, which I take very serious, which has to do with discrimination across all levels of education, most especially people with disabilities. And I take this very, very, very important. And we as educators, we also need to ensure this, and we ensure that no one is left behind. No one is left behind when it comes to the issue of vulnerability and at the level of education. And a lot of these targets which I'm also very keen about, because when it comes to education, I take that as one of the major goals, and I take it very, very paramount. Another target which I'm very, very concerned about under SDG 4 is target 4.8, which has to do with educational facilities having a safe and I've been to some schools before, and entering those schools, I feel, wow, this is a very conducive learning environment. And I've been to some schools in some rural communities, and I feel like I feel so bad that how on earth are we having students learning under this very poor and unconducive environment? But that's the case in so many schools. And I believe across different countries, there are going to be changes, there are going to be developments whereby we can get to upgrade our facilities. We can get to have an environment that is, that is sensitive, both when it comes to issues of disability, an environment that is safe, an environment that is noise-free, an environment that is inclusive for learning for all. And also, I think there is a very good target that is target 4.8, which has to do with teachers' education, and which is one of the major targets that Teach4SDGs is also building on, and which we are having this teachers training program. And I believe that in the coming years, it's going to be a greatly, it's going to be greatly achieved across different countries. Most especially those of us that are looking forward to physical engagement, physical trainings across our respective countries. And these are things which the organizations have put in plan to achieving this. Going back to the presentation for today, like I earlier said, we have the 169 target and that's over 232 indicators, which are what we use to track the attainment of the SDGs. But don't forget, when you talk about the SDGs, there are these 17 ambitious goals or objectives, which is mainly aimed towards achieving a greener, healthier, a more peaceful planet, which ensure that everybody have equal and shared prosperity, society are inclusive, and the environment is kept safe. And I think at this point, I can dwell more about the dimensions and the pillars of the SDGs. I know yesterday, Professor Paul tried as much as possible to dwell on some of those sessions. I will try as much as possible to make it brief this evening as well, whereby we can have a good understanding about what the SDGs is all about. Moving forward, I think I've spoken about this in detail, talking about the formation of the SDGs, and this is the largest ever participatory process undertaken by the United Nations. And like I said, it took 3 years to design these ambitious goals. It's not something that they just jumped on and say that, okay, 2015, we came up with this. Okay, someone was asking me today that, Mr. Manuel, what is going to happen after 2030? I just smiled at him. Yeah, sustainable development is going to be more advanced, and each and every country are going to track their progress, and whereby even before then, we see a lot of emergence of new technologies that are also going to contribute towards achieving development. But most importantly, we have to look at the areas of threats, and that would be the major area that might have to be reviewed when it comes to the SDGs. And I have this question which I need to share with each and everyone, because we always, according to this quote by Manta, that everyone wants a change, but nobody wants to change. Yeah, everyone wants a change, want to see development, wants new policy, want new curriculum to be in place, we want new development, we want new infrastructure to be in place. But the question is, what are we doing currently that contributes to the attainment of the SDGs? I want you to just hit the comment section with that. You as an educator on this call, what are you doing currently? What are you doing currently as we speak that contributes to the attainment of the SDGs? You can hit the comment section, and I'm going to take our feedbacks. I want to read our feedbacks to each and every one. I want to see our feedback. What are you doing currently that contributes to the attainment of the SDGs? Maybe in your classroom or at home, you can just share with me. I want to know, what are you doing currently? What are you doing currently? Where you are in your country. I've seen people joining from Kenya, people joining from South Africa, and people joining across board. to contribute to the attainment of the SDGs. And I can see some comments. I think I can also share that with us. I can share answers on that. But I'm waiting. Okay, thank you, Patrick. I've adopted EduTech in improving learning outcomes. Amazing. That's very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. Thank you for that impact. I want to see more comments. I remember there was a time during, maybe it was the first quarter of Teach4SDGs, and they were meant to have their SDG activation. And that educator in their state, okay, there was a curfew in their state, and for 3 months, schools were closed. And what the teacher did was to create a virtual group, and he added all the educators, all the students to the virtual platform. That was where he was educating people on the SDGs. So no matter what the challenge is, there is always a way. Okay, I can see a lot of comments now. No matter what the challenge you are encountering, there is always a way out. Okay, I can see another comment from Daniel. I implemented the education for sustainable development across my school. Oh, amazing. There's another comment from Eric. I creating a conducive environment for learning for students with disability. Oh, amazing. How you are making, how is a project on Zoom, Eric? You are not just doing this because I can see some people that are asking for funding. They're asking, these are things which you can apply for and you can get some fundings. I mean, you can get some grants and get some fund support from IGOs and other foundations that have their programs in line to that. I've adopted quality education and health awareness. I organized free tutorial for youth boys and girls include. Oh, that's great. I'm doing research on the just energy transition and it's linked to SDGs. Yeah, that's SDG 7. That's a very good one. I'm currently learning the knowledge and skills in order to, okay, very good. Oh, awesome. I can see different comments from different people. I also facilitated partnership with recycling company to pick up plastics and papers for recycling. Okay, I think I'm going to pause there to just thank you very much, Daniel, for that. I'm also going to pause there to say that this is a very good idea. This is a very good innovation. And I see some schools, most especially, they have it as part of their curriculum, and whereby not arts now, they have it as a club, whereby students come, they use plastic, form it different products. Some use it as chair, they transform it to different things. And I remember in 2021, there was a group of students that were trained and they did a hand washing machine using plastic bottles and tires. I was amazed. And we're able to market that product to have someone that is buying the product from them. And I told them, I said, this is your first pilot project. Please go and produce another one and sell to the organization. They also did a dining table using plastic bottles. And these are many things that you can also engage. You can also engage your student on. Okay, I can see a comment from Daniel. We have currently planted more than 10 trees in my school with the availability of a borehole. These trees are going well. Awesome. So please, as educators, we have more role to play. I think let me just read two more. Okay. I can see a comment from Veronica. I educated people on zero hunger, encouraging vertical plantation. Wow. Skill acquisition as a means of eradicating poverty. And yeah, when you talk about vertical plantation, I believe these are things that they can get more each and every school should do. We should do. And I hope we can have a facilitator to talk about aeroponics, vertical farming, even vegetable plants within your kitchen, at your backyard, on the fence. There are ways whereby you can grow your vegetables, you can grow your onion, I don't need to spend extra money on getting those things outside. So definitely these are things that we expect that each and every school should do. You should have your garden. You should have your school garden. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the great work which you are doing in your school. And the second question says, what's changed or input can you make towards accelerating the SDGs and ensuring its attainment in 2030? Yeah, there are a lot of things which we can do. There are a lot of activities which we can carry on in achieving the SDGs. And I want to admonish each and every educators to try as much as possible to ensure that we have an activity ongoing in our community, in our schools. Which are very, very important. And I believe these are things that are also going to contribute to the attainment of the SDGs. And this is just a one-stop view of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And like I said, they're all inclusive, interconnected, and most importantly, they are things that get to define tomorrow and also the future generation, meeting the needs of the future generation. And going further to talk about the dimensions of sustainable development. Yeah, I think I have a lot of people that have their own interests. This is where people always get to choose their own interests. That am I for economy? Am I for social? Am I for environment? I know we have these various classes of sustainability: economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. And when we talk about economic sustainability, when we talk about economic sustainability, this focus primarily, it has to do, it focuses more on the needs of the present generation, and it focuses more on sustainable economy, whereby we have opportunities for employment, economic growth, ensuring that the natural resources are being used in a responsible and equitable way, just like I said, inclusive. And when you talk more about economic sustainability, it has to do more about reducing poverty. It has to do more about improving standard of living. It has to do more about promoting social equity and justice. And one of the major goals, there are a lot of goals. I'm still going to link each of these sustainable dimensions of sustainable development to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And a simple way which you can get to always remember the dimension of Sustainable Development Goals is using the acronym C. The first one is social, the second one is economic, and the third one is environment. And when you talk about environment, I defined it the other time, the ability of the natural environment to support life and maintain ecological balance over time. Like I earlier defined, the natural resources are depleting. Yeah, but how are we going to ensure that the current generation and the future generation meets their own need? So each and every action we take today gets to contribute to either pollution or environmental degradation, or maybe natural resources, wildlife losses. So it's very, very important for us to get to minimize issues around environmental degradation. We need to reduce pollution, either maybe air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, in any form of pollution. And we also need to conserve natural resources. We need to protect Mother Earth. We have only one Earth. We need to protect the Mother Earth. We need to protect the planet, which is very, very important. And when you talk about the social sustainability gets to focus more about people, whereby we can get to build communities, we can get to build societies that are resilient, that are thriving, where people have equal opportunities, where people have, there is equal opportunities, just like we are celebrating the women. Women have equal opportunities when it comes to decision making, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to governance. Women have equal opportunities in these regards. It has to do with more of social inclusion. It has to do with reducing inequalities across board, across different countries, across different organizations. And that has to do primarily with the aspect of social sustainability. And I'm going to cite this example very well in a very simple format, because it's very important for me to do that. Like I said, I'm going to link each of these SDGs, each of these dimensions of sustainable development to their different pillars. And the very first one, which I'm going to link to the social sustainability, I already mentioned social sustainability when it comes to social inclusion, when it comes to quality of life, when it comes to equal opportunities, law and ethics. And when you look at the economic aspect, that has to do with getting to manage resources, when that has to do with economic growth. And you get to monitor, and I think another thing which I'm also going to say is the way which we can get to measure this. We get to measure the aspect of economic sustainability through GDP, the gross domestic product of a particular country. And each and every country has their GDP measure. And when it comes to social sustainability, you get to measure social sustainability using the happiness index. We always have the World Happiness Index that each and every year, each and every country have their happiness report. And for environmental sustainability, you can get to measure the aspect of environmental sustainability based on the level of carbon footprint which each and every country gets to generate. And I want to say this, which is very paramount. As individuals, we can also get to measure our carbon footprint. As individuals, we can get to measure our carbon footprint. And I think I'm going to share a link. I'm going to share a link with us. I hope the team are going to share that with us, whereby we can get to measure our carbon footprints. So that will help us to have an understanding about areas which we have to also reduce the level of carbon footprint. Carbon emission. So we have to reduce the level of carbon emission which we get to generate. So at this point, I think I can get to move on to the aspect of pillars, talking about the pillars for sustainable development. When you talk about the pillars of sustainable development, we have the 5 P's. And the very first one has to do with people. The second one has to do with planet. The third one has to do with partnership. The fourth one has to do with peace. And the fifth one has to do with prosperity. We have people, we have planet, we have prosperity, and we have peace and partnership. And there is one thing which I always say, that we can't achieve sustainable development when there is no peace. And we can't have peace when there is no sustainable development. Look at the issues that happened in Russia, look at the issues that happened in Gaza recently, and across different countries, issues of terrorism, they can be development. I've seen communities state that schools are to shut down because of issues of insecurity. And I'm glad that Professor also shared more insight in terms of the 5 pillars yesterday. However, I will just do well to link those pillars to each of the SDGs which we have on board here. And when you talk about people has to do with more of SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 3, 4, 5, 6, and 11. And you can also link SDG 11 to planet as well, because it has to do with sustainable cities and communities. It has to do with planet as well. Another pillar another SDG which you also have to link to SDG to the aspect of planet is SDG 13, SDG 14, and SDG 15. Life underwater and life on land and climate action. And when you talk about prosperity, you talk about SDG 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. And when you talk about peace, you talk about SDG 16. And when you talk about partnership, you talk about SDG 17. And achieving the SDGs, I want to say that achieving the SDGs require adequate partnership. Different organizations coming together, fostering and coming together to collaborate in achieving the SDGs. And I always say this, that no matter how clear a goal is, no matter how clear a vision is to you, it's not meant to be achieved alone. And one of the things which we find as a major strategy in our organization is any project which we are doing, truly we can achieve those projects alone. Any project which we are doing, we try as much as possible to bring partners, different organizations, different individuals that can get to support achieving that project. So no matter what you are doing, it's best you work with others. It helps you to drive, it helps you to accelerate action. When it comes to knowledge sharing, when it comes to cooperation, when it comes to resource mobilization, it's best you share the work and share the profit as well. Even if it's a for-profit organization, look for people, look for individuals that you can partner with, and you can share the work. It makes it what you're supposed to do for 6 hours, and you have someone of like mind that you can partner with. You split the work 3 hours, you get it done immediately. It increases your productivity and you share the profit. It also increases your profitability. So I think this is not a business class anyway. I don't need to dwell too much on that. And talking about the other goals, I think you can also see how the SDGs are being linked under the 3 dimensions. And I think Professor also mentioned this yesterday, because that has to do with governance, which is the mode of implementation, peace and partnership, SDG 16 and 17. That's the mode of implementation. And we have the social, economic, and environmental sustainability. And I'm going to move forward briefly, and this is going to be my last slide before I take questions from each and every one of us. And I want to say this because the SDG transformations are very paramount. We have 17 sustainable development goals. These 17 goals are much. Each and every country, they have their thematic focus. We have some countries that are focusing more on climate action. I wish I can share a report on, that's the Sustainable Development Report for 2023. Last year, we had the Sustainable Development Report for 2023 by the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and which measures the progress of each and every country. And sincerely, we have a long way to go. As a country, we have a long way to go. When it comes to achieving, as a continent, we have a long way to go when it comes to achieving the SDGs in Africa, which is one of the reasons why I'm so concerned about Africa, because Tunisia happens to be one of the top countries, I think, at the 80s. Other countries are below 120. Even Nigeria, which I'm from, we are below 143. out of, I think 146 out of 166 countries that were rated last year. I hope that this year we are going to do better. And for many African countries, I'm trying to see if I can quickly lay my hands on that document that details the ranking of African countries. I knew that my team actually worked on that ranking, or maybe later we can share that just for us to have a view of what the progress is so far in Africa, and why we all have to play a major role in advancing the SDGs in Africa. Yeah, it's very, very important. It's very, very, very important. We all have a role to play in doing that. And we believe that as educators, we are the first set of people to make that impact. Because even the people that we are electing today as governor and president, we are the one that train them up to that level which they are. I know that many of us, some of us are primary school educators, while some of us are secondary school teachers. However, wherever you find yourself, you know that you are training world leaders, you are training change makers. You need to let them know their role in achieving all of this. And I'm talking about the SDG transformation. The SDG transformation, the concept around the SDG transformation is basically talking about if we can achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we need to work on achieving the 6 transformations. And the very first transformation it has to do with education, gender, and equality. And what that means, this is already linking SDG 4, SDG 10, and it also links SDG 5 as well. And when you talk about the first transformation, it focuses more on the issues of gender disparity amongst boys and girls, and also most especially violence against women and girls. And moving forward, the second transformation has to do with health, well-being, and demography. And the third transformation has to do with energy decarbonization and sustainable industry. That is SDG 7 and SDG 8, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And the fourth transformation has to do with sustainable food, land, water, and portions. And when you talk about, you can also link that to SDG 4, you can list that to SDG 14, 15, and you can also link that to SDG 13, which is also on climate action. And the fifth transformation, which is on sustainable cities and communities. Because when it comes about I think we are going to have a section on green economy that speaks on sustainable construction and green buildings. Even in our school, like I got the feedback I got from one of the teachers that said that we've been planting trees in our school. One of the major standards, and if you track the target for SDG 4, and you also track the target for SDG 17 as well, is having a conducive environment for learning. It's not just until maybe you have a classroom block that has AC, that has fan. You can plant trees alongside your classroom buildings, and you can have some plants, at the corridors of your classrooms. And these are things that give you that good feel. There are some certain plants that you can have within your school environment that, in one way or the other, they get to absorb carbon, most especially the CO2. So these are things which we need to ensure as educators. And the last transformation is digital revolution for sustainable development. We are going to be having a session on that, innovation and technology for educators. And what is this session all about? What are the technological tools? What are the mobile application, digital technology devices that we can use as teachers that can also enhance our teaching practices? that can also make our activities more easy. And I think I won't have to say this now because it's in the pipeline. There's a project that has to do with secondary and primary school students. It's just a mobile app which makes your work more efficient. And once the innovation is fully in place, we are also going to have more information on that. So it's very, very important. And as we are in the 21st century, it's very, very important. We have to leverage on digital innovation to advance not just the SDGs, to make our classroom delivery more effective and more practicable. And I think at this point, I'm going to be rounding up, and I will take just a few questions from each and every educators. Maybe you have a question, you can get to ask your question. And before we have our next session, which is on education for sustainable development. And I believe at this point, you've been able to have a foundational knowledge about the SDGs, about 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the 169 targets, and also the indicators, and also the pillars and dimensions and transformations of sustainable development. I hope if there are questions for me, I would like to. Oh, awesome, awesome. I can see a comment from Adamu now. That's very good. That's very good. Okay, the program team are going to share, they are going to share the presentation slides with you. They are going to share the presentation slide with you, and you are going to see the link. You are going to see different links that are hello, Doctor. Hello, Dr. Godwin. Hello, I hope you can all hear me now. Please, I would like you to confirm if you can all hear me. And sorry, we are actually experiencing some network issues here. It's been totally awesome. Don't let me use a bad word, but I believe it's definitely going to work for good. And for each and everyone that have been asking a question, please, we are going to attend to your question, but I might not be able to attend to those questions now, but however, and we'll try as much as possible to attend to your question, and maybe in some of our other sessions. And we'll also share the presentation slide. Thank you, Alexandra, for that confirmation. We'll also share the presentation slide. I'll share my presentation slide with the program managers. They are going to share with you. I had to switch off my video because the network is really terrible. And, we just have to keep switching from one network. And I think that's the last transformation I mentioned, digital revolution for sustainable development. So it's very important. However, the network technology has been able to help us to achieve this to this level, whereby we can have this training across over 20 African countries and different teachers joining from different countries. And I feel it's one thing which we need to appreciate. It keeps getting better. Africa keeps developing and things becoming more better. And we want each and every one of us to just adapt to that. And this evening, we have one more session to go before we end today's call. And we have an expert who is a principal lecturer in person of Dr. Godwin Obioma. And Dr. Godwin is going to be leading us in the session that has to do with embedding education for sustainable development and SDGs. Various classrooms and across our various schools and community. Please, with a clapping ovation and also in the comment section, help me make welcome Dr. Godwin, and he's going to be leading the session. Okay, over to you, Dr. Godwin. Good evening, Doctor. Thank you for joining. And I hope you also have a seamless network to run to this session. And we can have it from there. Over to you, sir. Hello, Dr. Godwin. Hello, Dr. Godwin. You can go ahead with your presentation, please. Oh, amazing, amazing. I hope this network favors us this evening. Dr. Godwin, if you can hear me, we can hear you, sir. I will appreciate if you can unmute your mic. Sorry, dear participants, we are just trying to have Dr. Godwin to start a session, but it seems we are having some technical issues from his end, and we hope that could be resolved shortly. Please just stay on the call, and once this has been resolved, we are going to kickstart the second module immediately. Please just stay on the call while we have Dr. Godwin share his presentation with us. Thank you. Dr. Godwin, can you advise maybe you switch off your video just because of the network issue, if we can hear you? Most importantly, it's your voice would like to, then you can also share your screen. We still can't hear you, Doc, if you are speaking over there.
We can be. We must be.
The first generation to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
Anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
Is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
everyone goes to school.
and education gives us the knowledge
And skills.
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities to thrive
And be powerful.
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
And proper toilets at home,
at school and at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
heat, light.
And power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper. A new wealth
Lead to decent jobs
for everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
Best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
Inside our countries,
And between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate change.
Where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
Animals. The earth itself.
with peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
We can be. We must be.
The first generation to end extreme poverty.
the generation
Most determined.
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
Anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
Is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
everyone goes to school.
And education gives us the knowledge
And skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities to thrive
And be powerful.
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
And proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
heat, light,
And power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth.
Lead to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
Best innovations
are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated.
inside our countries
And between different countries.
where people live